Welcome back, everyone. Today we finish it up. We're talking about the 4th Prestige Heavy build and how you can set this class up to maximize all the benefits and fun that this class has to offer. Now, real quick, before we get into the actual build here, I do just want to throw out that yes, I am aware that with update 8.0, there are going to be some perk changes coming down from the update. However, after looking into the perk changes that we can expect, at least at this time, I haven't seen anything that's too major or game changing. So the vast majority of this stuff, I would say 99% of the information is going to remain the same. So I figured we might as well go ahead and get this out since people still have a couple weeks before the update hits. And then if we do have to go back through, change anything or update information, we can just do all of that in one quick little video. And that way, if you're not playing on the public test server, if you're like me and you're stuck on console, you at least have a good build to ride you over into that date. And honestly, even with the perk changes, I haven't seen anything that's going to be so game changing in that you won't be able to use any of the current builds to full success. But anyways, we're going to get right into it here. So as always, we're starting with the prestige perks, and the way I like to set up my heavy is to be more of a support role. And by support, I mean I like to lay so much hate out there that if everything on screen is dead, it can't possibly hurt myself or my teammates. So I am looking to maximize my efficiency in that with a lot of the heavy weaponry that the heavy has to offer, and also try to offset some of the downsides to it, but mostly trying to stay in that support role. So with the first prestige perk, in my personal opinion, the best one for the heavy, auxiliary reload. Anytime you get a melee kill, and I do want to emphasize that it has to be a melee kill of an extremist level enemy or higher, you get one full magazine added back to your primary weapon. You don't have to be out of ammo, anything like that. It just has to be a melee kill on something that's extremist or above. Also, there is no cooldown to this, so let's say you're playing on like lethal or absolute, maybe you're able to get a couple extremists knocked right next to each other, you execute them back to back, you're going to get 2 magazines back because, again, no no recharge timer, anything like that. Just get a melee kill of an extremist and you're good to go. Moving into the second slot here, conviction. So anytime that you lose all of your armor, you are going to take 10% less health damage for 10 seconds. This is something that I do find useful because even though the heavy does have some really great wave clearing ability, sometimes it takes a little bit to get it going depending on what weapon that you're using. So at least being able to stave off some of that more immediate health damage that you might take is always a good thing. Plus, as I'm sure many of you know, melee is not where the heavy really succeeds in any meaningful way. So if you do run out of ammo and you are having to play the whole stomp the yard game and that, this is a nice way to at least keep you in the fight. Moving into the next slot, we have duelist. Again, this is just to help out with our melee capabilities. It will increase our perfect parry and block windows by 25%. Honestly, once you kind of figure out how the melee system with the heavy works, it's not that bad, but it is something to where you don't have some of the same benefits as a melee weapon. So just being able to increase that parry window is definitely a huge help, especially if you have multiple Majoris or other enemies like that coming at you. Plus, it does allow you to farm off the Minoris armor back a lot easier. And then finally, reverberating impact. So again, this is going to play more into the melee side of things here, but the whole reason for it is the stomp area of effect radius is going to be increased by 50%. Honestly, I don't use this for the damage. It's mostly because if there are a whole bunch of enemies that are ganging up on me, I can quickly just launch a stomp attack, and that's going to buy me a couple moments in that where hopefully I can reposition or at least stun enemies just enough that I can maybe quickly finish them with like the Melt-A-Gun or something along that end. So that's what I run for the prestige perks, if that's all that you're interested in. Thank you for watching anyways, but we are going to cover the other remaining loadout for the heavy here. And honestly, you do have a little bit of flexibility with this class. I wouldn't say nearly as much as maybe like the tactical or the bulwark classes like that, but you do have some pretty interesting options in how you want to play. But let's get right into it. So in the first column here, there are no bad perks. My personal favorite, though, is Restoration. Anytime you kill 7 or more enemies in rapid succession, you will get an armor segment back. Very short cooldown time of 15 seconds. And with the heavy, you're going to be able to keep your armor shards up quite a bit. Now, I would say if you are running the Melta rifle, I'd probably forego this perk and I would pick multi-kill, just because anytime you kill 5 or more enemies with one shot, you're going to recharge your ammo by 1. So essentially, as long as you're just clearing waves out, you're going to be doing it for free in terms of your ammo counter. Now, if neither of those two do interest you, or maybe you find yourself running out of ammo with the heavy bolter or even the heavy plasma incinerator, auxiliary ammunition is also pretty good as well. The only downside is, in order for this to activate, your primary weapon does have to be out of ammunition. Thankfully, the heavy does have some more options for secondaries now, so getting those 7 rapid kills is fairly easy. Moving into the next slot, I picked Thermal Boost, mostly because if I am playing the heavy, I'm using mostly the heavy bolter or the heavy plasma incinerator, so I do get a bunch of help off of this perk here, which is anytime that the ranged weapon is 50% overheated, you get a range damage increase of 15%, which honestly, you're going to notice that kicking in quite a bit. There have been a lot of times where whenever I first start working on a wave in that, some of the Majoras, it feels like it definitely takes them a little bit longer to go down. But then once you see on your reticule and that you hit that 50% mark, things just start going down a lot quicker. And I've noticed a hell of a lot of benefits coming from this perk. Now, if you're using the multi-melta or you're just okay with the base damage for the other weapons, honestly, Fortitude is not a bad pick. It's just a generic 30% health increase. Moving into the third column now, my personal preference was Overwhelming Force, which is just whenever Iron Halo is activated, all squad members within 10 meters, they're going to deal 10% more range damage. I just enjoy this because not only does it benefit me, but it also benefits my team, not just with the range damage boost, but if they are close enough where they are getting that boost, there's also a chance that they can use the Iron Halo themselves to help cover them from range damage and just avoid taking damage in general. Plus, a lot of times that does allow me to focus on clearing more priority targets. If they're sticking close by me, they might be more interested in mopping up smaller enemies themselves, or vice versa. I can work on clearing out the massive hordes, and maybe I've got a sniper behind my back. He can just start popping the Majoras. The other 2 perks in this column, honestly, are both rather good. Versatility, it's very similar to one of the prestige perks for the sniper. Phenomenal perk, there's really no drawback to it, but anytime you switch your weapons, your secondary is going to get a 20% damage boost. This is nice to have if you find yourself consistently running out of ammo as the heavy, just because, again, there's no real drawback to it. It's just as soon as you swap weapons, you have that 20% damage increase until you either have to reload or you switch back. However, if you want to get the perk back, you just simply switch right back to your secondary and it kicks right in. So it's a super easy perk to activate. Plus, I think it averages, or not that I think, but you get 20% more damage, so essentially after 5 hits you're getting a free shot that's added in there, which is pretty nice, and it will also help save ammo for your secondary weapon. If you do want to spec in more to the melee, Enhanced Force is not a bad option for it. It's a generic 30% melee damage increase. However, personally, I feel comfortable with the prestige perks that I picked to help balance out the melee side of this. I just find that honestly the other 2, they have more benefits to not only myself but also the team, so that's why I tend to run with them. Now, within the team category, I really think it comes down to 2. I would honestly say just run both of them, see what you and your friends prefer. For me and my friends, it's additional supplies, which is a generic 25% weapon ammo increase for everyone in the squad. And now this is only for primary weapons, but it's something that everybody benefits from, especially you as the heavy. That way you have a lot of extra hate that you can lay out onto the battlefield. Now, the other perk that I would also recommend as a team perk is Bonds of Brotherhood, which anytime you revive a team member, their health is going to be completely restored. Now, I did run both Bonds of Brotherhood and additional supplies quite a bit when I was playing with my friends. We all agree that Bonds of Brotherhood is a phenomenal perk. However, when I asked them which one they preferred, getting revived and having the full health or just having more ammo, it was pretty unanimous that everybody just preferred having more ammo right from the get-go. And honestly, their reasoning was a lot of times when they still had ammo in their primary weapon, it meant that they were going down less often, so they didn't really need the Bonds of Brotherhood perk to kick in. But honestly, there isn't a wrong choice between either of these two. I would just say whatever works best for your team, that's the one that I would recommend you go with. Moving into the gear perk, again, we're going to help keep our buddies safe here with the Emperor's Protection. So anytime that Iron Halo expands all of its energy, everybody in the squad, they're getting one armor segment restored, which honestly, Iron Halo does have a little bit of a longer recharge time to it. However, while it is up, you do have a couple other perks that you're able to benefit from. And even while Iron Halo is also recharging. So I haven't really messed around with its whole recharge rate. However, getting that armor boost after Iron Halo goes up, or that armor recharge, is just really nice to have. Plus, it's something that'll kick in randomly, and it's kind of like, getting a small little Christmas present here and there, and helps keep the team alive. My next choice for the gear perk, as I said, I didn't really want to mess around with the recharge timer too much on Iron Halo just because of some of the other perk choices that I have. I like to get as much out of them as I can. So instead, I opted to go with increasing Iron Halo's durability by 25% with Bastion here. Honestly, it's just something that when you're dealing with Zoranthropes or even some of the sniper enemies out there, they can drain Iron Halo quite a bit, so you're able to take a few more hits from attacks like that, and it just helps keep you in the fight, because honestly, if you're trying to dodge all of that stuff, it's going to take you longer to bring down those enemies. Sometimes I'd rather just suck up that damage, even if it means Iron Halo is going to drop and I'm not going to get the full use out of it. At least I might be able to take out that one enemy that's causing a headache for everybody else. The last perk that I picked in the gear column was Brute Force, which is whenever Iron Halo is on its cooldown, you get a 15% range damage increase. So the nice thing is, whether Iron Halo is up or it's recharging, you're seeing a damage increase across the board, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And you can also pair that with one of the earlier perks as well. So whenever you hit that 50% overheat on your primary weapon, of course, if you're running the multi-melta, that's not going to matter. But either way, you're still getting those huge damage increases, which is just going to cause everything on the screen to melt. Now, the other thing that you could pick in this column, especially if you're really into reviving your teammates, is Saving Grace. So while this won't do anything immediately for your teammate, what it will do for you is Iron Halo is going to completely recharge and you're going to restore all of your armor segments. It's just a nice little buffer, especially if you're trying to revive somebody who's in an area where you just don't really have the time to clear it out before trying to pick them up. You're at least going to be compensated for taking that risk. The other thing that I would say too as well, Wrath of the Imperium, this perk has been greatly buffed since whenever I first tried it. Before, it was just kind of minor damage that enemies would take. Now I would say it's closer to the tactical perk. I can't remember offhand what the name of it is. But whenever Iron Halo goes out, enemies that are within a 10-meter radius, they're going to take some pretty significant damage. Honestly, this has been enough to get Majoris down to an executable level. And if you do have some decent damage on an Extremist, even them. So again, no perks in here are bad. For me personally, I just like having as many damage increases as I can get. And Brute Force does that in spades. Finally, with the signature, again, I don't think any of them are too bad. However, there's definitely a clear winner, and that's conversion field. So while you have Iron Halo active, everybody in the squad, as long as they're within 20 meters of you, which is honestly fairly generous, or truthfully fairly generous, their ability is going to recharge by 50%. And this is just something where, like, if you're playing with somebody who's a bulwark, they're going to be able to put that banner down more. Your tactical is going to be able to fire off a couple more aspects throughout the match. You can just get so many benefits from running this perk that it's totally worthwhile using. But overall, that's the build here. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. You do have a little bit more versatility than what you might expect with the heavy. And again, this is just such a fun class to play as. There's just something about setting up that heavy stance and just blasting away at enemies on the screen. It's just so relaxing. You can shut your brain off and just unwind from the world and have some fun. But thank you all for watching. So as I said before, when the new update does come out, if there are any big changes that need to occur, we will go back and talk about them, but we'll just knock out all 6 classes in one go because I don't think it's going to be anything that's too time consuming. But anyways, thank you for watching.